Good morning. Welcome to our virtual back to school night. I know this is quite different from you sitting in my classroom with me and me talking you through this presentation and introducing myself to you, but hopefully this helps. Hi, I'm Christina Ray. I am your child's beginning composition teacher. I just wanted to quickly, for this back to school night video, do an overview of the course as well as show you how to access my website. All right. So a little bit about me first. My name is Christina Ray. My email address is there for you as well. My educational background comes entirely from UC Davis. I got my bachelor's in communications there with minors in psychology and sociology with an emphasis on the sociology of law. I initially thought I wanted to be either a civil rights lawyer or a social worker. I worked in a non-public school setting at a residential treatment facility for a few years and discovered that, well, perhaps social work wasn't for me. I really loved the school environment and working with students. So I went back to UC Davis for my teaching credential and my master's degree. So I am credentialed in English, in theater, and in sociology as well. I'm the English division lead here at Vista Del Lago. I'm also one of the study sync coaches for the district. I'm one of the district's equity leads. So I like to stay involved in multiple things. This is my 9th year. I know it says 8th year on there. It is my 9th year teaching high school and my 7th year here at Vista Del Lago. I also teach Honors English 9. I teach English 10, although not this year, and I teach English 12 ERWC. Additionally, I direct the musicals. So if your student is theater minded, I might be seeing them in a different setting as well. So my educational philosophy, I truly think that students learn best if they're challenged to engage in intellectual conversations with their peers about whatever it is that we're learning in class. So typically, if you walk into my physical classroom, rarely is it entirely silent unless students are working on some kind of a writing task or doing a summative writing piece. Students are often collaborating. They're discussing topics. I think that's really important. So they will be doing that virtually in this class through the use of breakout rooms. So your students will get to know each other through the discussion in their class. Because of that, I feel like it's so important that they have a sense of community. So we work through icebreakers and team building activities and getting to know each other to build that sense of freedom and safety to speak freely in class, because it's so important that they're able to use their voices without feeling threatened. I believe that they should really learn to think critically about the world around them, about everything they see, everything they read, all of the media that they take in. All of it should involve some level of critical thinking while they're taking it all in, because there's so much information out there. And so I do that through relevant instruction, which helps to increase their engagement. So that's kind of my overall philosophy as a teacher. So beginning comp itself, it's an elective, which is a bit of a misnomer because it is mandatory. So a mandatory elective writing course for all 9th grade students at Vista. It really sets the foundation for the writing that they will do for the next 4 years and then on into the future as well. We're focusing on experiencing the world through a reading and writing lens, and our job as writers is to really add voice to society's narrative. So in order to do that, we have to assure that we are always thoughtful, we are always analytical, and that we are always building our credibility as writers, as speakers, as contributors to the narrative of the world. Typically, a day in beginning comp will start with some sort of a warm-up or team building thing, something to kind of just get us started. This might be focused on the current unit, descriptive writing or academic conversation, persuasive writing, integration of quotes. We will do mini lessons on Mondays since we have those short days, and those are going to help us to build those base skills as well. Then we'll move on to direct instruction, where I'll talk to them for a little bit. We'll maybe do a lesson, a whole class activity that centers around whatever that current unit of study is. And then finally, we move into either group or individual practice. So that's in class, in the synchronous time work on writing or oral communication process, on brainstorming, discussing, creating, drafting, whatever it may be. Sometimes these tasks may carry into asynchronous time. However, it's never my intention for them to take too much time outside of that. Traditionally speaking, I don't assign homework, so that asynchronous time is built in to allow them time to finish what would be otherwise considered classwork in a traditional setting, not additional work on top of that. So sometimes they'll have things to finish up in asynchronous time, but rarely will it be, I'm assigning this and we didn't start it in class, I want you to just do it alone. That's very rare. They do have a reading blog in this class, so you might see them creating a Google site in the next week or so here. I am asking, all comp teachers are asking, that our students read outside of class. They have so many options here, and the assignment sheet, if you want them to show it to you, will really break that down for them. But we're developing their love of recreational reading. Research has really supported students getting into the habit of reading recreationally. There are so many advantages for those who do. So they can either look at fiction or nonfiction texts. They can look at a variety of formats. They may want to go with hard copy books. Soon here, they will be able to check things out of the Vista Library, so look for more to come on that. They may elect to read ebooks, or they can listen to audiobooks. All of these things are optional. So I've linked here so you can just kind of get an idea of what this looks like. My reading blog. So every composition teacher has one of these. Your student has access to all of our reading blogs, and they are creating their own. So theirs won't look exactly like mine, but it gives them an idea. So they'll have some kind of a home page with whatever they want on it that introduces us to them as a reader, and then they will have the blog itself. So I've included a page of what I'm currently reading, and then my blog gives them an idea of response questions. So they have a lot of prompts that they can click on when they're in the assignment itself, and they may decide to write to a specific prompt, or perhaps they just want to have some conversation with the text. But throughout this term, they will do 10 of these writing blogs. All right, to get into the units of study themselves, there are 4 main units in this course. The first one we're in the middle of right now. Which is identity and belonging. We're kicking this off with a week of exploring why it is that we write and what it is that drives writers to tell their stories. Then we move into some narrative writing. So students are going to explore their own relationship with writing, and they will write a short piece that will emulate the narrative writing of another author. So that's our first unit this term. We then move into what we call the I Matter unit. They will be writing a belief statement following the This I Believe curriculum. They'll be brief, but they'll be incredibly powerful. These are about a page long, but there's so much depth in them. We're really going to study the use of figurative language and how it is that we can use those strategies to impact our audience. And they'll have a very brief oral presentation called That's My Bag, which is kind of like show and tell, but at the high school level, so that we can start practicing those speaking and listening skills as well. We then move into a genre study, which is a survey of digital media. They're going to start practicing really rhetorically analyzing a text across various forms of media, questioning everything. I think it's so important that they learn those skills, especially as we're being hit with so many things on our televisions, on the radio, through podcasts, etc. So we're going to start working with that, and we will rhetorically analyze podcasts, TED Talks, documentaries, short films, YouTube videos, etc. We then move into our final unit, which is Does It Matter? It is argumentative writing. So this is like the big meaty essay of the term. They'll write an essay in which they develop an argument. They're going to work to build ethos or credibility, pathos or appealing to their audience on an emotional level, as well as logos, appealing to their audience on a logical level. So this is really going to help to set that baseline of what they'll need moving forward in high school, because truly everything is an argument. They'll center these arguments around issues that exist in our world today. They'll get to pick their own topic and explore it a little bit further, and they'll learn to build rhetorical arguments using various strategies, including things like counterclaim. They'll get into addressing those. Their final is a speech, which will be based upon the same topic as their rhetorical analysis and their argument. So they get the opportunity to expand that out and present it in yet another form. So we'll be examining famous historical speeches to look at how rhetorical strategies are effectively used, how figurative language gets incorporated into speeches, because academic writing in the way that they're doing their essay is going to look much different from the audience that they need to reach for their speech. So we're going to do a lot of activities with word choice and tone and building those devices in order to appeal to an audience as a speaker. And throughout the term, they will have opportunities to present in front of class in a very low stakes way, so that they're able to get that formative feedback before they jump into that summative final assessment. The grades in this class, much like the grades Vista-wide, are broken down between formative and summative assessments. 70% of their grade is summative assessments. These are assessments of learning. For our purposes, they're final projects, final drafts. Those are our summative assessments. And then 30% of the grade is the formative assessments. These are the things that are practicing our learning. So they will get feedback on formatives before they get to the summative, so that on any specific learning target, they've been able to practice in a low stakes way. They also do quite a bit of work that's ungraded, where it's no stakes practice, so that fear of making a mistake or not being able to learn freely because you want to be sure that you get it right the first time because you don't want it to affect your grade negatively. We're working on taking that fear away in this class. Related to that, we do accept late work. However, we do ask that they complete a form on Google Classroom within the week that the assignment is due. So if something's due on a Tuesday, they don't turn it in that Tuesday. I'm asking that week they turn in the late form. It helps us to keep track of what's not submitted. It's also a tool to help them realize their own habits and to work to break those habits. But you won't see late work reflected in their grade itself. You will see it reflected in citizenship, but not their overall grade. I truly think it's important that grades reflect learning as opposed to behaviors or academic habits or things like that. In the same vein, we do not offer extra credit per our VISTA policy, and again, assuring that the grade is reflective upon what the student can produce and what they've learned as opposed to other things. And most summative work can be revised if all formative work has been submitted and on time and the student correctly follows the revision procedure. So more about revisions with your students when we get to those particular assignments. They are graded on a 6-point scale as opposed to a 100-point scale in a traditional system. 100 different levels of proficiency. That's a lot of levels of proficiency to be able to say, well, what's truly the difference between an 84 and an 85, or an 84 and an 87, or an 80 and an 89 for that matter. So we've really taken this scale and embraced it in VISTA's English department. It is what they will be using for the rest of their VISTA career in their English courses. So because the purpose of grading and reporting is to communicate information about their achievement to you, to others, to them, etc., to provide information for self-evaluation, to help to identify students or groups of students who might need specific educational paths or programs or intervention or enrichment. They are incentivizing. We can't deny that. Grades are an incentive for many students, but they also help us to evaluate the effectiveness of our own instructional programs. So with these purposes in mind, we use the 6-point scale, which focuses on descriptors, not percentages. So we're looking at skills and learning targets, not assignments. So for each number in the scale, there is a corresponding proficiency level. So a 1 would be unsatisfactory, and these are all broken down on every single rubric, which you can see on my website. We did an activity this week where they broke down the rubric in their own language, and so in teams they decided what these words really meant and got to develop their own language for it, so you can see as well what they came up with for what these things mean. So unsatisfactory is bruh, as they put it. It just really doesn't meet the requirements. It might tie into the traditional F. The 2, the novice level, the amateur level, as they've called it, they're still really building those skills. Kind of correlates to the traditional D. The 3 is the approaching level. It's You're almost there. There might be a few critical steps that are missed or a few critical skills that we need to build, but we can build those skills through the use of intervention in flex time and with support and feedback. The 4 is like the traditional B. You're hitting grade level. It's proficient. It's okay. You're there. You get it. You could move on to the next level and be just fine. It's showing that you understand the grade level expectation. And then we get into the higher levels where a student's performing above grade level. So the 5, the traditional A- range, it's well done, as they've said. It's advanced. And then finally the 6, the exemplary, the chef's kiss. In their language, it's epic. That's that A+ level of, dang, you could teach this to this class. It's absolutely beautiful. And we do provide models for these levels on various assignments. A little bit about just taking care of business things. My website is a good spot to see things that you're looking for. If you're looking for what the students are seeing, you can ask them to show you the Google Classroom. That's kind of the student hub. That's where I post the student activities, assignments. They submit things there. They do digital discussions there, etc. I do update grades frequently. You will see assessments broken down by learning target. So for example, this here, I'm probably mirroring, so I apologize if this is weird. This is their rubric for what they're working on right now, the Why I Write. You'll notice there's two different learning targets or two different bands of this rubric. The first is purpose, the second is style, each graded on the 6-point scale. Instead of seeing just why I write go into the gradebook out of 12 points, you will see why I write, purpose, why I write, style, and each of those will be delineated. This really helps them to get that formative feedback that relates to the summative feedback. We can track how they're doing on a skill. It's almost like standards-based learning light or diet standards-based learning. Also, they are going to be able to revise a lot of this summative work, and seeing that they can, when they get to the later essays where there's, say, 5 different bands of the rubric, perhaps they need to revise just for their claim, but their organization is just fine. That's not to say that they have to revise the entire essay and that we'll do the process for the whole essay. Maybe there's just one skill that they need to fine tune, and breaking it down by learning target allows us to really identify what that thing is. So it's, again, one of those great things of the 6-point scale. You should ideally have already signed the course expectations. If you have not, you can certainly find them on my Google site, which I've linked here. It's also linked from the Vista website. That's where it's kind of the parent hub for you to find things. So if you go to the Vista website, you can link here to my website. It has a little intro, how to contact me. My email address is here. That's truly the best way to meet me or to reach me is through email. And then we can set up a meeting if needed, or a Microsoft Teams, a phone call, etc. On here, you will see the course expectations if you've not yet had a chance to look at them. ERWC is here as well, but right here is where you will see the beginning comp course expectations, and the last slide of those course expectations is where there's the digital signature form. So I do ask that you please click on that signature form in order to acknowledge that you've read the course expectations, and to let me know anything else that I need to know there. And then we have a beginning comp tab. Here is where you will see my weekly updates that I've been emailing out. So the before school one, this one is the weekly update from this week. And additionally, if you'd like to see the rubrics on what we are working on, you can find them here. So our book blog rubric and our Why I Write rubric are up as we continue to add more assignments and assessments. The rest of the rubrics will be there as well, so that you can see the grading criteria as well as your students can see it. All right, that was a lot of information. It's funny because usually back to school night we get 10 minutes, and as quickly as I'm speaking now, you can just imagine me trying to get through all of this in only 10 minutes. But thank you for taking the time to watch this 18-minute video. I'm very much looking forward to teaching your students. I'm so happy to be back in the classroom, even though the classroom looks a little different than we had hoped it would look like. I'm truly very, very grateful to be educating your students even in this environment. And please know that I am here to answer any questions you may have. All right, have a great night.